Okay. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Pariva Jakacharya Ashtatara Shata Srimad A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Pariva Jakacharya Ashtatara Shata Srimad Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jayam Vishnupad Srila Gaurkishore Das Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai. Jayam Vishnupad Srila Sachinandana Bhaktivedanta Thakur Ki Jai. Jayam Vishnupad Vaishnava Sarvabhuma Srila Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Shri Rupa Sanatana Bhatta Raghunatha Shri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Das Raghunatha Sad Goswami Prabhu Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Supreme Sekaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shamakun Radhakun Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Shri Mayapur Badam Ki Jai. Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Ganga Mai Ki Jai. Yamuna Mai Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Tulsi Devi Ki Jai. Anantakota Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai. Gunath Raj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. ISKCON Dharma Guru Vrinda Ki Jai. Samaveta Vafta Vrinda Ki Jai. Gora Pramanande, Hari Bol. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Sri Guru, Sri Guranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Narayana Namaskritya.
Narayana Namaskritya.
Naram Jaiva Narottamam.
Naram Jaiva Narottamam.
Devam Saraswatam Vyasam.
Devam Saraswatim Vyasam.
Tito Jayam Yuridayat.
Tito Jayam Yuridayat.
Nastra Preshu Abhadreshu.
Nastra
Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya.
Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya.
Bhagavati Uttama Shloke.
Bhagavati Uttama
Bhaktir Bhakti Naishtiki.
Bhaktir Bhagavati Naishtaki.
Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer respect under the personality of Godhead Narayan, and under Nara Narayan Rishi, the super being, under Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and under Srila Vyasadeva, the author. By regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam, and by the rendering of service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed. And loving service under the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. All right. Good morning, everybody. So many of you. Today is April 20th, 2025. It's also Easter Sunday. So happy Easter to those of you that are so inclined. And today we'll be reading from Canto 4, Creation of the Fourth Order. Chapter 28, Paranjana becomes a woman in the next life. And verse 7. Vishirnam Svaparam Bhikshya. Vishirnam Swaparam Bhikshya
Vishiram Swaparimikshya
Pratikulananandritam
Pratikulananandritam
Putran Pautran Nugamatyan
Putratautranugamatyan
Jayam Chakata Svaritam
Jayam Jagatasaritam
Vishirnam Swaparam Bhikshya
Vishiram Swaparimikshya
Pratikulananandritam
Pratikulananandritam
Putran Pautran Nugamatyan
Putratautranugamatyan
Jayam Chakata Svaritam
Jayam Jagatasaritam
Vishirnam Swaparam Bhikshya
Vishiram Swaparimikshya
Pratikulananandritam
Pratikulananandritam
Putran Pautran Nagamatyan
Putratautranugamatyan
Jayam Chakata Saridam.
Jayam Jagatasaritam
Okay, please chant.
Vishiranam Swaparim Bhikshya
Vishirnam Swaparam Bhikshya
Pratikulan Anandritam
Pratikulananandritam
Putran
Putran
Gamatyan
Pautran Nagamatyan
Jayam Chagata Suridam
Jayam Chakata Saridam.
Vishiranam Swaparimikshya
Vishirnam Swaparam Bhikshya
Pratikulananandritam
Pratikulananandritam
Putran Pautranugamatyan
Putran Pautran Nagamatyan
Jayam Jagatasaritam
Jayam Chakata Saridam. Vishirnam Swaparam Bhikshya Pratikulananandritam Putran Pautran Nugamatyan Jayam Chakata Saridam.
Vishiranam Swaparim Bhikshya
Vishirnam Swaparam Bhikshya
Pratikulananandritam
Pratikulananandritam
Putran Pautran Gamatyan
Putran Pautran Nagamatyan
Jayam Jagatasaritam
Jayam Chakata Saridam. All right. Vishirnam,
Vishiranam
scattered. Swaparim,
Swaparim
his own town.
his own town
Bhikshya,
Visha
seeing.
Seeing
Pratikulan,
Pratikulan
opposing elements.
Opposing elements
Anandritan,
Anandritam
being disrespectful.
being disrespectful
Putran,
Putran
sons.
Sons
Paut, grandsons.
Grandsons
Anuga,
Anuga
servants.
Servants
Amatyan,
Amatya
ministers.
Ministers
Jayam,
Jayam
sorry. Wife.
Right
Cha, and
and
Gata Saridam,
Saradam
indifferent.
Different
Translation by Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. King Paranjana then saw that everything in his town was scattered, and that his sons, grandsons, servants, and ministers were all gradually opposing him. He also noted that his wife was becoming cold and indifferent. Please repeat. King Paranjana then saw
King Brahmacharya that saw
that everything in his town was scattered,
everything in his town scattered
and that his sons,
that
grandsons,
son
servants, and ministers
Servants
were all gradually opposing him.
were all gradually opposing him.
He also noted that his wife
He also noted that his wife
was becoming cold and indifferent.
was becoming cold and indifferent.
Purport. When one becomes an invalid, his senses and organs are weakened. In other words, they are no longer under one's control. The senses and sense objects then begin to oppose him. When a person is in a distressed condition, even his family members, his sons, grandsons, and wife become disrespectful. They no longer are under the command of master of the house. Just as we wish to use our senses for sense gratification, the senses also require strength from the body in reciprocation. A man keeps a family for enjoyment, and similarly, family members demand enjoyment from the head of the family. When they do not receive sufficient money from him, they grow disinterested and ignore his commands or desires. This is all due to one being a kripana or miser. This word kripana is used in the 6th verse. It is in opposition to the word brahmana. In the human form of life, one should become a brahmana, which means that one should understand the constitutional position of the absolute truth. Brahman, the absolute truth Brahman, and then engage in his service as a Vaishnava. We get this facility in the human form of life, but if we do not properly utilize this opportunity, we become a kripana, miser. A miser is one who gets money but does not spend it properly. This human form of life is especially meant for understanding Brahman, for becoming a brahmana, and if we do not use it properly, we remain a kripana. We can actually see that when one has money but does not spend it, he remains a miser and is never happy. Similarly, when one's intelligence is spoiled due to sense gratification, he remains a miser throughout his life. Om Jnana Timrandishna Jananjana Jalakaya Chakshuram Malatam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manovistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Karamayam Dadati Swaparantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagratata Sahagana Raghunatha Tam Jivam Savadetam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Pada Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jikapate Gopesha Gopeka Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gourangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Siti Devi Pranamami Hari Priya Vanchakopa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Okay, so this seems a little harsh, this what's happening here to King Puranjana. So in this verse we see that King Puranjana is becoming old. He's actually like in the process of dying basically. But he's becoming old and his family is no longer caring for him as they once did. And first, when you come into this world, you're young and you're strong and you're popular and, and people are happy to have you around. But then as you age, that kind of goes away. It's not suddenly you're finding yourself, you're not getting invited to those parties, although I was never invited to parties, so I don't huh? All right, well, me and him, we were not invited to parties, but I bet you were invited to parties, no? Okay. All right, well, that's a bad example.
That's why we're all Hare Krishna now.
It's because we're partying every day now. I'll show you what a party is. Yeah. But yeah, and so, when you're young and you're beautiful or handsome and you're strong and you have your virility, and, you have so many friends, but as you age and you get older, your friends, end up getting preoccupied with your lives. Your friends go their separate ways. You might be able to hang on to a few here and there. But ultimately, everything is temporary, right? This goes away. So what Srila Prabhupada is saying in this purport is a little harsh. People think that this isn't true, right? They think, oh no, I would never abandon my husband or wife, or even my parents, right? Because they've gotten old. And so people think this, they think this, but if we look at what their actions are completely the opposite, right? So they think, oh, I love them, I would never abandon them. Yet the divorce rate is incredibly high, right? And what is one of the biggest causes of divorce, right? That's money troubles, right? That's one of the hugest causes of divorce. And then when we look at people, they don't want to believe this, but look at all the care homes that we have, right? Because people don't want to care for their elderly parents, right? So they put them away in a home, and if they're lucky, they'll go visit them. If the parents are lucky, their children will visit them. But there's so many people that live in care homes who have family that's alive, have children that's alive, and they never go to visit them, right? So much so, I remember being in Girl Scouts, and it was a regular thing when we were in Girl Scouts to go to like an old folks home, to go and just spend some time with some of the people there that don't have family members that are coming to look after them and spend time with them. And so we did that regularly when I was a Girl Scout. And that's because, like Srila Prabhupada says, once you're no longer serving me, suddenly, oh, my love is not as great as I thought it was, right? It's just not there. Since you can no longer gratify my senses, now we're not going to be friends. Or now we're still family, but only in name, right? We're not going to actually act like a family. I've seen an example from my own life. I had a good friend for a long time, for most of my life. And then once I started getting involved with the Hare Krishna, she sort of abandoned me. And that's because I was no longer, interested in doing the same kinds of things that she was interested in doing. I guess, in a way, I also abandoned her because I am no longer interested in watching movies and taking intoxication and pontificating about politics for endless hours, right? It's just not something I'm interested in doing anymore. And so because of that, we're no longer friends, even though we had been friends for almost 30 years, for like 25 years. So everything in this material world is temporary, and one day our bodies and our senses are going to fail. This is already happening for me. I can't hear you. Those of you that spend any time with me know that. I'm constantly saying, what? What did you say? Can you look at me when you're speaking so I can read your mouth? When we had to wear masks, do you remember that? When we had to wear masks, I had the hardest time understanding anybody because that's when I realized how much I relied on reading people's lips to understand what they're saying, because my hearing is so poor. So yeah, our bodies and our senses are definitely going to fail us. And everything, though, is temporary. So whether we're happy, that is temporary. And this is in the material world, right? When we're doing material fruitive activities, right? If we're happy, that's temporary, right? If we're sad, that's also temporary. Sometimes people, they do terrible, terrible things just based on a temporary situation. People will commit murder or kill themselves, right? Because they're in a terrible situation that seems so unbearable. But it is a temporary situation. So even death is temporary, right? So today's Easter, right? So this is the day that the Christians celebrate that Lord Jesus came back from the dead. He was resurrected from the dead. And I'm not trying to diminish Jesus in any way, because he was resurrected in his same lifetime. But we are also resurrected one lifetime after one lifetime after one lifetime. We just keep being resurrected, right? And we're doing the same thing each lifetime, right? We're going through birth, old age, disease, and death over and over. And so we know that definition of insanity, right, is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. So, what can we do differently? So I know Kirtaneshwara brought this up in his class the other day, but there's that one time when Yamaraj asked Yudhisthira, what is the most wonderful thing in this world, right? And that's day after day, countless living entities in this world go to the kingdom of death. Still, those who remain aspire for a permanent situation here. What could be more amazing than this? So, yeah, I mean, everything is temporary, and we keep doing the same things over and over and over again, and we're not doing anything different. Or at least most people are not doing anything different. So sometimes I hear devotees say, oh, I'm just so fallen, and I can't be saved, right? So they kind of use that as an excuse to not even try, right? I'm just too fallen. And I see this also, it's not restricted to devotees in our organization, but I see this kind of attitude pretty much in many different spiritual practices, right? This, or people that are maybe have a little bit of spiritual inclination, but they don't want to try because they feel like, oh, I'm just too far gone. There's nothing I can do. There's nothing I can do. But that's not true, because that's also temporary. So if we, like, even if you're so demoniac, right, you can be saved, right? If we serve Krishna. I mean, I think you also talked about Putana, right? She was killing babies. She tried to kill Krishna, but yet she was saved. Krishna not only liberated her, but she got to have a glorious position, right? To be a mother. Or we look at Shishupal, right? Shishupal, he really just did not like Krishna. He spent like his whole life just not liking Krishna. It was says he was born not liking Krishna, right? And so he was saying so many terrible things about Krishna, and I forget, he got a boon. His mother somehow got a boon, right? That he would be spared until he said, what was it? What the 100 things about Krishna, and so that 101st time, Krishna let him have it, and the Sudarshan Chakra came and cut his head off, right? But what happened to him? He ended up becoming liberated. He got absorbed back into the body of Krishna, and so, I mean, when you're thinking like, oh, I'm so fallen, oh, I can't do this. Are you killing children? Are you doing that? Are you out there blaspheming Krishna every day to his face? Are you doing that? Are you? No, you're not doing that. Okay. Not often? All right. Maybe just like one day a week? Okay, that's good. Yeah, and so so this attitude of I'm so fallen or I can't be saved, it's just kind of it's just silly. It's in a way, it's like a self-gratifying, yourself trying to gratify your ego in sort of a roundabout way, right? And so you're definitely not as fallen as Putana, or Shishupal. So there's hope. It's temporary. So even Lord Brahma, right? So Lord Brahma, he has one of the best positions, right? If you play your cards right, you can also be Lord Brahma, and you can have so much power and a bit facility to enjoy for a very, very long time. But even Lord Brahma, that's temporary. He dies. He lives for 311.04 trillion years, right? That's a long time. I mean, wow. But still he must also die. So Srila Prabhupada in this purport, he talks about a miser. And so let's see what he says. Yeah. A miser is one who gets money but does not spend it properly. Yeah. We can actually see that when one has money but does not spend it, he remains a miser and is never happy. And I don't believe Srila Prabhupada means like spending it on cars and vacations or fancy things like that, but spending it in a proper way, right? It's not satisfying, it's not happy. So this made me think of Scrooge, you know, the story Scrooge, right? That's Christmas Carol. And do you guys know Scrooge? Yeah.
I don't.
You don't know Scrooge? Are you serious? Really? Okay. Well, Scrooge was, I don't believe him, but okay. Okay. Well, so Scrooge was, he was just kind of a business guy, and he had a lot of money, but he was just kind of very miserable. He was always hoarding his money. And it was Christmas Day, and his employees, they wanted off from work because, you know, they want to spend it with their family. And he was making them work, and he didn't care. He didn't care at all. He's very impersonal, right? He just didn't care what his employees had to do. All he cared about was that money, making that money. And but he himself was miserable. I mean, he would just sit in his little house and just like count his money all day. It's not, I mean, I guess you get some satisfaction from it, but you could tell he was miserable. And so that night he ends up getting visited by 3 different spirits, the ghost of Christmas past, present, and future. And the ghost of Christmas past kind of takes him back in his life and shows him earlier in his life, before he had become such a miser, he shows him that he was happier, you know, that he had, you know, loving exchanges with other people and not just with money. And so Scrooge, you know, he was a little bit moved by that. Then they showed Christmas present, and Scrooge was able to see what his employees were doing. His employees were enjoying having loving exchanges with each other, with their families, right? And they're spending time with their families. And they're even if they were so poor they didn't have anything to eat, they were still having a good time and happiness, a little bit of happiness, because they were not so focused on, you know, material things, right? And then Christmas, the ghost of Christmas future, he saw that basically he died alone. He died alone and miserable, and, you know, I think he had money, but he was just completely miserable and alone. And so this scared him so much that he kind of changed his ways, and he ended up, you know, helping out his employees more and allowing them to spend time with their families. Actually, I think this whole thing happened on Christmas Eve, so then they were able to go spend time with their families on Christmas Day. But the moral of that story was that Scrooge, because all he cared about was that money, those material possessions, he was just miserable. He was a miser, right? We can see also something that was in the news just recently, like Jeff Bezos, he launched that little Blue Origin rocket with a bunch of famous ladies on it. I don't know if anybody caught that. So it's just kind of a stupid thing. So two of the ladies I knew, one of them was, you know, Jeff Bezos's wife, and then 2 of the other ladies I knew, and then the other ones I didn't know. One was Katy Perry, you know, the pop star Katy Perry, and one was Gayle King, who maybe you don't know her name, but she's the best friend of Oprah Winfrey. And so they went up into space for 11 minutes, and they came back down. And this cost so much money, so many resources for 11 minutes. And when they came back down, there was this huge backlash. Like, people were just like, wow, this is just so stupid. What a waste of time, money, and resources. And, you know, there's like serious issues going on in this. And now suddenly they're very unhappy, and they regret that they did that, right? Because there's all this backlash from the public. just kind of saying how stupid the whole thing was, right? And so they're completely unhappy, even though they spent so much money to be able to do that, right? They spent a lot of money to be able to do that. But did it make them happy? No, they're completely unhappy. They thought, oh yes, people will think this is great. Like it's this kind of this is a history in the making, right? But really, no. And so they were so disappointed by this. And that's because they're spending their money on stupid things, right? It's not satisfying to them. So, yeah. Okay, so some people, they try to kind of counteract this desire, they try to counteract this phenomenon of being unhappy when we gratify our senses. So they try to counteract that by not gratifying their senses at all, right? And they try to stop all sense gratification. And this doesn't really work. It might work for a short period of time, but it's also not necessary, because Krishna, he doesn't want us to be unhappy. And in fact, he wants to give us what we want. That's why we're here. That's what Kirtan Eshwara said on Friday. That's one of the reasons why the material world is here, right? To give us what we want. But there's one problem with that. We don't know what's good for us. Just like a little kid, and a little kid, they want to just eat ice cream for breakfast or for dinner, or maybe for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Yes, I want to eat ice cream. But the mother knows, okay, well, you're going to get a stomach ache. You're not going to feel good when that happens. And if I just let you keep eating ice cream, eventually you're going to have vitamin deficiencies, and you're going to be completely unhealthy. You'll probably become overweight. You'll get really sick. But the little kid doesn't know that. They just want that ice cream, right? And we should tell him, just become a Hare Krishna. You can have cake for breakfast like every day. So, but anyway, that's because that child, they don't know what's good for them, and also we don't know what's good for us. And so that's why we keep trying to gratify our senses with all these things, like shooting a rocket into space for 11 minutes, and then it's not satisfying, because we come down and realize, wow, everybody thinks I'm a fool, or otherwise, I don't do that, but I know, like, I've certainly done much lesser things. I've gotten into horrible relationships as a way to try to gratify my senses. I didn't think it was going to be a horrible relationship. I thought I'd keep trying. It's going to be great, and it ended badly, right? And we see this all the time. And it's because I didn't know what's good for me. Just like I remember when I was young, and there was a boy I liked. My mother didn't approve of him, right? Because she said, "Oh, he's no good. He's no good." Oh, but I love him. But it turns out he was no good, right? My mother, she could see this because she knew, she had a little bit of experience about life and what would be good for me and what would not be good for me. So we can enjoy our senses so long as we enjoy our senses in alignment with Krishna, right? And we try to serve Krishna. And that's what will actually make us happy. And we can do that by accepting the glories of devotional service. So we can look at, right? He was doing so much devotional service by preaching to his classmates, even though his father did not like it. The teachers did not approve, right? And so much so that his father tried to kill him, multiple times. I mean, like lots and lots of times. But yet, Prahlad Maharaj, he remained equal posed, even though his dad was trying to kill him so many times. And he was saved every time. And then even at the end of that, he prayed for his father to be saved, right? Then we look at Dhruva Maharaj. He was doing that devotional service, not even for pure reasons, but because he wanted something. But still, he was doing devotional service. He was meditating on the Lord. And then when he finally saw the Lord face to face, he said, wow, all these things that I wanted, they're like broken glass to the gem that's standing before me, right? So Dhruva realized all that he wanted for his sense gratification was like nothing compared to seeing the Lord face to face. And then also Krishna, he wants our love. He doesn't want our stuff. He doesn't want our great knowledge, And we can see this in the story of Sudama, the Brahmana, right? Sudama, he was friends with Krishna in school, and then later on, he's living with his wife, and they're very poor. They have pretty much nothing, and they're really struggling. He's really sick, sickly, thin, and his wife is kind of encouraging him. Look, you used to be friends with Krishna. Why don't you go to him and go to see if maybe he can do something? And Sudama didn't really want to do that. But at the urging of his wife, he did. He went, and he wanted to bring something, because you don't want to go to somebody's house, and not bring them anything. And so the only thing that he could bring was a little bit of chipped rice. It was basically like nothing, And so when he went to Krishna's house, and Krishna greeted him, and Krishna said, "Oh, you didn't bring me anything. You didn't bring me anything." And he had the chipped rice, but he was kind of hiding it because he was sort of ashamed of what a meager gift it was. But Krishna found it, and he started eating it, and he was enjoying it so much. I mean, so much, right? Just that little chipped rice. That's because Krishna doesn't need these elaborate things. They're nice if you can do elaborate things for Krishna. There's nothing wrong with that. But he doesn't need that. He literally has everything. So, but what he needs is our love. This is also exemplified in the story of I've heard it 3 ways. It's a spider, a chipmunk, or a squirrel. It's a spider. It's official. You're officially saying it's a spider. All right. Srila Prabhupada says it's a spider. All right. Has anybody else heard any others? Yeah. Yeah. All right. I've also heard chipmunk, and I've heard squirrel. You've heard that? Yeah. Yeah. Spider, chipmunk, squirrel. Okay, but we're going to say spider. So in that story, we see, Hanuman is helping build a bridge to Lanka to save Sita, right? And Hanuman's very strong, and so he's lifting these big, heavy rocks, and he's helping build this bridge, and he's very, very efficient. He's strong, he's very powerful. He's building this bridge, but there's the little tiny spider. I mean, what can a spider carry? Maybe a speck of dust or something, right? And the spider, he's also carrying the little specks of dust, the little grains of sand, over to help the bridge. And Hanuman is just like, hey, get out of here! Real men are trying to work here. That kind of attitude. And Lord Ram says, no, wait. He's also serving me, right? And that's because it's the love. It's the love and devotion that spider had that was so relishable to Lord Rama, right? We can also see this in the story of the wives of the Brahmanas, right? The wives of the Brahmanas, they didn't have much learning, right? Their husbands had all kinds of learning. They were, they knew all the shlokas, they knew all the mantras, but still, when Krishna and Balaram came to them and asked for some food, they turned them away, right? Or, well, when the cowherd boys came and said, we need food for Krishna, they got turned away by the Brahmanas because they were busy. They were busy doing doing their sacrifices and things, right? Meanwhile, completely missing the whole point of doing all that, right? So they went to the wives of the Brahmanas, and the wives of the Brahmanas immediately understood. Oh, it's for Krishna? Okay, yes. Here, take all this food, right? And so that, really shows that it's not it's not our stuff that Krishna wants. It's not even that Krishna wants us to know perfectly all the shlokas and all the mantras and everything. It's that mood of love and devotion is what that Krishna really relishes. And so we can start a devotional service by chanting, right? Or chanting the holy name, because this is a prescribed method for this age. And it's so powerful that even if you say the holy name by accident, you get benefit. So let's see here. Yeah, so there was a Muslim guy one time, and he was very sick. He ate some spoiled meat, and he was very sick, and he was dying, and so he ran. He was sick, and he ran to the woods to relieve himself, but he couldn't get up after he was done. So he's just kind of like laying there in the woods, and he's just sick, and then a wild boar came by. And the boar starts attacking him, and attacking him with his little tusks, and he's killing the man. And as he's dying, the Muslim guy, he calls out, "Haram, haram," right? But the word haram in Arabic means something like cursed, right? It means no good, bad, right? Yeah, how horrible. Okay, how horrible. There you go, right? But there's also the word Rama in there, right? And so he kind of inadvertently chanted the name of the Lord, and therefore he ended up becoming liberated. He attained liberation because at his dying moment, that's what he said, right? So even if you say the holy name by accident, you get benefit. So imagine if you're actually saying the holy name with devotion, right? The benefit that you'll get. So sometimes, we're just giving up so much. We're giving up, illicit sex. We're giving up meat eating. We're giving up intoxication. We're giving up gambling. But really, as Jayadvaita Swami said one time, we're giving up misery, right? That's what we're giving up, is the misery. And so I think, yes.
Thank you. Last night, Gurudev gave class on this chapter, weirdly enough.
On King Puranjana?
This chapter specifically, the end of it.
How he becomes a woman.
But, one of my big fears is like the death of, like the unfortunate death of a Grihamedi, or even, dying without remembering Krishna, without devotees around. I've seen firsthand people die like that.
Yeah.
With the family hating them and all that, after many years of service to the family, then the family, I've seen that actually. And I saw it, and then when I read it, it really freaked me out because I've seen it. And then we think like, then like if you're like, now you're the other side of things, if you're a renunciate, you're a brahmachari, then it's like, well, if that goes haywire, then you're just alone. You don't got anybody. Right. But then at the end of this chapter, we hear about how King Puranjana's next wife, he's Puranjini, and he, she goes to the forest with her husband, and her husband just dies, and he dies in samadhi because he was a good devotee, and then she's there alone in the forest, in the darkness. And she starts, being hysterical. And then Krishna comes in the form of a brahmana. Krishna says, "Don't you remember me? I'm your friend. I'm always with you. I love you." So we have to remember that we have to always remain surrendered to Krishna. That, you know, we can't fear these types of things. We have to remember that no matter where we are, you know, Krishna is with us. And that's why they say a Narottam actually is described as a Narottam in the first canto. That a Narottam is someone who leaves home without telling anybody, his family or anything. He just disappears, and then he goes to live in the forest and dies in the forest alone. That's considered a Narottam, a topmost human being. That's what Dhritarashtra did. Oh, he wasn't a Narottam, but there was other different things that happened. But anyhow, we can't fear that, you know, death, because we want to take shelter of all the fallible soldiers, even devotees, right? We're scared. Oh, I don't want to be alone. I don't want to. As deha patyaka tradish atma sanyash vasatsapi. Taking shelter of fallible soldiers like the children, the body, and the wife, but actually only Krishna will be there at the end. So if we don't take shelter of Krishna, it's going to be bad. It's going to be miserable.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, if you go to an old folks home and you look at all those people that are in there, you have to realize every single one of them are once head of their household, right?
Right.
And then where is the rest of their household now, right?
I'd rather just go to the forest and die alone. My dad was in those places, and like, I just think like, you know, like I'd rather just be alone in the forest than be like in that position. Because at least in the forest, you can just think of Krishna. No one's distracting you from thinking of Krishna.
Yeah,
They don't gotta put the like prices right on at 9 in the morning.
yeah. You were telling me about that last night, that one of the people in the home, you know, was blaring the TV all the time, all night long. Yeah. Hey, bring her the microphone. Sorry.
I kind of have a sort of a question or something that's connected with that. So, you know, we're talking about how basically, you know, elder people become sort of disrespected and nobody really cares about them anymore because they're like useless in society and all of that, and they end up in homes. The way society runs, there's no choice for them but to be in a home because, you know, like in India, I mean, it used to be like the extended family takes care of them, but now everybody has to work in, you know, it's a different lifestyle. But
Right.
how can the devotees, how could ISKCON in a way be different from, you know, thinking that, oh, they're older now, let's just neglect them? How can we think differently as devotees? As we are devotees, we're supposed to care for everybody. So if we recognize people in nursing homes, why not go to nursing homes and do programs? Because there's not only the residents are there, you've got staff there, you've got owners there, you've got managers there, there's a lot of people, and they're always looking for, you know, activities and things like that. So we have great programs within ISKCON to do that. And you never know what the result could be. I mean, an owner of an assisted living home or a nursing home could become a devotee and say, I want my whole, you know, home to be Krishna conscious. We don't know. And that's part of what we do as we are, you know, doing these programs. So there's not only one way, let's just go out and find, you know, the young people that can come, but what about these people that have been neglected and that we can help them and they could be helped? And because we're all going to be in that position one day.
Yeah.
Too.
Oh, and that's a great point, and I think it's definitely something that we should make an active effort to do those things, because those people, you know, they're at the end of their lives, you know, and even if you know, they don't become a great devotee or something, it can certainly offer a lot of benefit to them, just to hear the holy name.
Hearing the holy name.
Yeah. So, and not to mention the people that do really take to it. I mean, the amount of comfort, you know, because death is very frightening for people that you know, for the majority of people, death is terrifying, right? And so one thing about, you know, being characteristics is that you become fearless, right? Because you understand what's happening. So, Yeah. You had something?
Let me see how I word this. Devotees, my mind is having a brain problem here.
Is the old age creeping in you?
Yeah, right. You saw the picture of me when I just need an old man.
Well, it also may give you a middle-aged man. So, yeah. Yes.
Another thing too is full circle.
Oh,
As I
yeah.
go see Pangea with Alan, and Divya will make cookies, and we'll have cookies for everyone, so at least they can take prasadam.
Yeah.
They may not necessarily chant, but they can still hear it,
Right.
and prasadam is also there too. So any little thing to expose them to Krishna consciousness.
To hear the name and get
Mm.
prasadam, I mean, that's,
Because they're near the end. It's probably much more important then than
yeah,
earlier in life. So
absolutely.
in their situation,
Yeah.
yeah.
Because that's, we're all training, right? We're practicing. The reason it's called a practice, because we're practicing for that day when we die, right? We're practicing so that we can think of Krishna when we die. So, okay. Oh, he remembers his old age has subsided.
Yeah, it's like, I think that we have to have a lot of faith in Krishna that, because we tend to make arrangements. That's what humans do, and that's the opposite of like ultimate surrender. We got to make people are thinking, oh, I gotta get a family so when I die, I someone will take care of me, and that's very much common in India. And then a lot of brahmacharis are really freaked out about that too, especially in India. It's more common. You find that many older brahmacharis want to get married at 45, because they start freaking out. And it is very real. It's a very real fear. But we have to think, Krishna says, for one who explains this secret to the devotees, pure devotional service is guaranteed, and at the end he comes back to me. So, we have to have that full faith in Krishna. And that's why I like this story, especially this chapter, because we hear about the end of Pranjana's next life, as a woman. He's just there alone in the forest, and then Krishna comes. And, we're all going to be alone in the forest someday, and the only person we'll have to take shelter of is Krishna.
Jai. Absolutely. All right. We'll end there. Dr. Raj, Srimad Bhagavatam. Jai.
Jai.